Hi everybody, I'm so excited that you are here. My name is Carly, welcome to my studio. I'm really excited about today's video. I'm going to go through 10 of my best tips for beginner sewists. Stick around and let's get straight into the video. Tip number 1. My first recommendation is owning a pair of Snips. Now these are exceptional. When you're sewing, every time you end a seam, I'm sure you know you're gonna have to snip off those threads. And when I was beginning, I was either trying to use the little tool that comes on the side of my machine, which helps you snip a thread, or I was just using my sewing scissors. And both of them were just kind of inefficient ways of snipping thread, and they were honestly just annoying. So owning these is kind of game changing. Every seam that I finish, snip, snip, snip. Some of my friends from Instagram who are also sewers say that they wear them on the end of their necklace, or they have like little necklaces for them and they literally just hang here and they snip, and I just think that's incredible. I will link these snips in the description below, and everything that I mentioned in this video, I will try my very best to find some sort of accurate link to a product like that, and I'll put that in the description as well. Number 2. My second tip is sewing with secondhand material or bed linens. I did this so much when I was starting because it really helped me build my confidence without the fear of messing up some really expensive fabric. And throughout the process, I discovered that secondhand fabric and bed linens can actually be really high quality cottons and really enjoyable to work with. And now a lot of my business where I make clothing, I use secondhand material for, because honestly, it's really cute. And I love that it's getting a whole new life rather than sitting in a dusty op shop. So yeah, be resourceful and save money here. Tip number 3 is to have your iron close by to your sewing station. For me, if it's not nearby, I just don't want to use it. And when I was just starting out, I really just didn't understand why you even needed an iron. It felt like an unnecessary extra step, and I know that probably makes a lot of you just feel so embarrassed for me, and I'm embarrassed too. Ironing is game changing for the quality of your sewing, making sure that your fabric is just completely flat and ironed out, and then ironing your seams as you go. It just like makes your sewing so much better. Ironing is probably one of my favorite parts of sewing now. Anyway, having it nearby is amazing. Even if you don't have a little sewing nook and you just set up in the kitchen or something like that, get out the iron, put it right next to you. It's just gonna make everything so much easier. And if you're not ironing your seams, try it. I promise it's going to be totally life-changing in your sewing. It just makes everything so crispy and fresh and nice, and just give it a crack. It's worth the time. Tip number 4 is all about pinning your work. Pins are an absolute gift. They help so much in making sure that your seams align, that your project is really matching up, and that everything stays in place when you're sewing. I love working with pins, but let me tell you, I really didn't when I was a beginner. For some reason, I don't know why, I thought I could just kind of guess, I could just hold it in place as I sewed. More often than not, it would result in messy sewing. I now know pins are exceptional. If not pins, little clips or whatever you like to hold your fabric in place. Also, I don't go crazy with the pins. It's just in key places where I know I'm gonna need guidance, like around curves, making sure the fabric is aligned at essential points, and really wherever it feels like it needs a little extra structure while I'm sewing. Tip number 5, unpicking is totally fine. Getting this little guy out used to be the end of the world for me. I know now, after sewing for about 2 years, that unpicking is a completely natural part of the process. And honestly, I sew almost every day, and I use this almost every day. It's worth the time reviving your project from whatever little clumsy mishap has happened. I just say, get a few of these, make sure you've always got one around, and just don't feel bad when you have to unpick. Be gracious and patient, because this is actually an amazing tool. It saves our work, and I think probably everybody is using this tool. Just don't feel bad about it. This week's question is from one of my friends on Instagram, and she asked me, how did I get into sewing? There's a long answer, but the short answer is I was really interested in making garments, and I watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I slowly became quite obsessed. And like everyone's story, I was really bad, and then I just got better over time. It's a very boring story, but you might be interested to know that I think I started sewing in 2021. So this is my 3rd year of properly sewing. That's all. Thank you for your question. I would love to answer one of your questions every week. So if you have any questions for me, be sure to leave it in the comments and I will answer another question in next week's video. Tip number 6. Headphones! Headphones are amazing for sewing. I know a lot of people have them. I know a lot of people have AirPods. Personally, I'm someone that gets a little bit distracted when I'm working on my sewing projects, and so getting stuck into a really good podcast or movie or TV show in the background is kind of essential into getting into my sewing groove. But it's almost impossible to be able to hear any of that kind of entertainment over the sound of a machine, and that is why headphones are amazing. It just allows you to keep in that zone and yeah, really vibe with your workflow for the day. Tip number 7. Having a great pin cushion or pin holder is so lovely. This is something that makes my sewing experience just more enjoyable as a whole. The store where I got my pin cushion unfortunately does not make them anymore, which I'm so sad about. I would love to honestly go in now and buy 10 more of these, but I think you could recreate this so easily. I will try and find a similar kind of pin cushion to put around your wrist though, and I will link it in the description below. Otherwise, there are great alternatives. I know you can get magnetic ones that just snap all of the pins onto them. Some people have trays that sit on top of their machines, and I know that you can also just get pin cushions that stand alone or attached to machines, so they're not necessarily on your wrist. Tip number 8. Okay, honestly, you might hate me for this one, and I kind of don't like myself with this one too, but it's to change your needle, and frequently. Very often when there is a malfunction with my sewing machine, it's time to change the needle. And for some reason, I always forget this, and I will be rethreading it, I'll be changing the bobbin, I will literally be doing everything, dusting, oiling. Change the needle. Apparently you're meant to change them after every 8 hours of sewing. I definitely push that a lot. I basically go until failure, which is probably not good. But I say be proactive. Have the needles ready to go so you don't have to run to the craft store in the middle of projects because it's so annoying. And remember to swap them out. They work so hard for us. Tip number 9. My 9th tip is very obvious, but it is to have a designated pair of fabric scissors. This is the element of sewing. Even as a beginner, I say splurge instead of save. Having a really good pair of scissors is just going to save you from many headaches. I tried to play this part cheap for the first part of my sewing journey, and I think I bought multiple pairs of scissors, and I also went through quite a lot of the rotary cutters too. One really good quality pair of fabric scissors will take you a long way. You can sharpen them as you go, and I've been cutting with these scissors for over a year now, and they're still treating me so well. I say absolutely take the plunge and invest in a good pair if you are sewing quite a bit. Make sure that your fabric scissors don't touch anything that isn't fabric. Really, that just means no paper and like no sticky tape or anything that a craft scissor can do. These guys really are just exclusively for fabric, and that helps them stay nice and sharp. Okay, my last tip, number 10, is simply to not rush through your projects and really enjoy the process of sewing. It's so easy to just really want to skip ahead, get straight to the end product. I've totally been there, but the more I sew, the more I realize that this process of creating clothes is so intricate and exciting and very enjoyable. And when you start to find that enjoyment in all of the process, it's just gonna fill your cup a lot more, because it's not gonna be just about the end result. You're actually going to be appreciating every step and all of the skills required to construct your clothes. Calm your farm, slow down, and just get into a groove. just let it be. And your sewing will be at a higher quality because of that respect, I think, for what you're working on. Well, those are my top 10 tips. I hope they were helpful in some regard. If you made it to this far in the video, I just want to say I appreciate you so much for being here. It really, really means the world. And if you like this kind of content and you want to stick around, it would mean so much to me if you considered subscribing to my channel, or maybe just leaving a like or a comment and we can be friends. I hope you have a fantastic week and I will see you in the next video. Bye!